about the monitoring of Mr. Hamza, about the monitoring for if the client or the broker, how can the client understand or know about his shares can be traded from the brokers without any announcement or authorities from him. It is very important that the Iraq Securities Commission and Iraq Stock Exchange and also Iraqi Depository Center checking the back office order for the brokers every time. We have a plan. Each of these entities have a plan to check out the documents and the back office for the broker. If we see that there is no authority from the client and there is a credit for each client from the broker without his authority, it will be going to the checking and to be investigated, and after that it will be going to the court. We didn't face that because we have good punishments. We have good penalties to the brokers, and if we discover that any broker or any trader, not only broker, broken the law, broken the regulation, he will be punished, and sometimes we kick him out. We draw our license from him. About your question, you are talking about T+3, why we made it for the trading T+0 and for the settlement T+1. You know, to the session, unless we have announcement from the settlement bank, each broker, each client, what is ability to buy, what is the money deposit in the bank, and is able to be buy share. During that, the system administrator here and Iraq Stock Exchange and the system administrator in Iraq Depository Center also report that those shares are free to be.
اللي اشتراه في هذا اليوم إلى مركز إيداع، احنا نقدر نعملها. هذا الموضوع ممكن وجائز وموجودة هاي الآلية بدنا نعمل بيها. أنه أنا أريد أتأكد من ملكية الأسهم مالتي. يريد يسافر، ما يريد يبيع، فقط يريد يشتري، فيقدم طلب إلى مركز الإيداع يقول أنا أريد هذه الأسهم يتم تجميدها، فبناء على طلب المساهم نفسه فإحنا نعمل عملية الفريزنج على هذه الأسهم فقط بناء على طلب المساهم نفسه اللي هو مالك الأسهم، وأيضا ترفع بناء على طلب نفس الشخص طبعا أو وكيله. الأوراق المالية وعدينا تعليمات أخرى لأنه كان عندهم بعض التحفظات على بعض وعدت ورفعت إلى هيئة المفوضين في هيئة الأوراق المالية لغرض إقرار التعليمات. ننتقل الأوراق المالية والموقع الإلكتروني في مركز إيداع وفي موقع هيئة الأوراق المالية لغرض التقديم على أمناء الحفظ. ما موجود أي احتكار لأي بنك ولأي جهة معينة لحد الآن لهذا الموضوع. ما عندنا. شكرا.
Okay, please. Bank of New York will give a brief presentation about how maybe things should happen also in the GDR world.
We'd like to say special thanks to Rabee Securities for organising this event, and of course for you, the delegates, for making the effort to come really from all over the globe to attend. Many of you, as you'll see in the presentation, companies from this region are increasingly looking at maybe listing depository receipts on exchanges in the Far East as well. And so Hong Kong depository receipts, Indian depository receipts, and others structures are now coming to the fore. I thought I'd start with a little look at this slide, which shows the trend over the last few years, with 2008 being the exception, of US investors looking to Relations Society, which now has, as a matter of interest, about 300 members in the region, which gives you an idea of the sophistication that companies in the region now look to adopt when it comes to communications with existing and potential shareholders. There's been a real game change. A lot of those investor relations officers have come from developed markets, but in the last year you've started to see a local investor relations community building as well, as these expertise have come in. They've trained a lot of the local talent which I think is very, very important. So now you have a lot of local people that are representing the local companies to the foreign investors, and I think that that's very, very compelling. So it's critical for a good investor relations program to proactively manage the expectation of the foreign investors. But it's also a reactive mechanism. They need to be aware of what the market thinks of the company, the sector, the fundamentals, the growth, the management story, etc. So the IR function is both pushing information out to the market, but also receiving information in, which then gets fed back to senior management and allows senior management to adapt the story accordingly. I don't think I'll drill down too much on the investor relations side, but suffice it to say, though we're not a trading bank, so we wouldn't buy the shares to then resell them. We're merely the bridge to facilitate interest from investors who instruct brokers. The brokers would buy the share in the local market, custodize those with us, and we would then issue the depository receipt. So we wouldn't be the trader in that as well. But yes, I mean, you know, in theory, and we're not working with any companies here today, but in theory, that's exactly how it could work. That if there is not enough depth in the local market to take up an offering of that sort of size, then you can make depository receipts available as part of an IPO in London or in New York to take up a proportion of that offering. Absolutely.
But there's got to be a custody arrangement, doesn't there, for that? There's got to be a custody arrangement for that to work, doesn't there? Because one step was custodizing the shares.
Yeah.
So without a custody bank, that won't work. Is that correct?
Well, and that comes back to the first question, what steps need to be taken before that this could be a reality. So it's not impossible. There are markets, Korea, Lebanon, I can think of two, that there are others as well, where custody arrangements were not in place before DR programs were initiated. So there are ways around it. Clearly it works most efficiently with custody arrangements in place from the beginning. But the basic premise of your question is quite correct. If you have an emerging market where a company has strategic or practical needs to issue some of those shares in a secondary market, then depository receipts are a very, very well-trodden route for that exact reason.
Leveling of the global economic playing field, one of these great times when investors can be extremely well rewarded for understanding the changes that are going on. I'm going to conclude by saying why I think Iraq, quite frankly, is probably the cheapest market in the world today, or close to being one of the cheapest markets in the world today, with the greatest potential for growth. And I say this not because of my great relationship with Rabee, but because I see what's going into Iraq. We probably do, out of my company, on any given day, we're probably 15% of your market in terms of our clients who trade through us and then through Rabee. But it is a remarkable time. But I'll save that for last, and then hopefully it'll be time to leave. Other than a little sort of hiccup, which was the great crash of '87, where all the markets sort of had a flash crash, pretty much driven by the US. All of those markets, those emerging markets of 1985, continued to boom for the next 15 years. To give you an example, France, from that conversation in 1985 to the year 2000, the French market proceeded to go up 1,000% over the next 15 years. More importantly, because of the significant difference in balance of payments and trade and trade imbalances, during that period, the dollar began to get. Dollar had been very strong. There was a Plaza Accord where they essentially said, you know, we've got to devalue the dollar and recognize the value of these other currencies, and you have this tremendous move simultaneously in currencies, which made it an extraordinary investment environment for anyone who was a sort of non-European currency investor. So we have two benchmarks that we've talked about so far. Closing the gold window, 71. 1985, the emerging markets really sort of took hold. The whole concept that you could invest anywhere, well, at that time, anywhere in the developed world you could invest. Number 3 of our secular events, early 1990s, there were 2 events that happened reasonably close to each other. The Soviet Union collapsed, and I always hammer this home, the South Africans suddenly let Nelson Mandela free and recognized his position, and he clearly stated right from the day that he walked out of Robben Island prison that he was going to